that government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish.
Of the people, by the people, for the people.
And that government of the people, by the people, and for the people, shall not perish.
It's just awfully good that someone with the temperament of Donald Trump is not in charge of the law in our country.
Because you'd be in jail.
Secretary Clinton.
Afternoon, peeps. Good Thursday afternoon. Mac Files number 31. Man, what a free-for-all. That was actually from debate number 2 that you just saw there. And it has become our favorite clip of all time, and we may play that through the next 18 days. 18 days and some hours to go before we wrap this presidential election up and we choose one of these two. You see here on the screen, the picture above me there tonight is the snapshot from last night's debate that was held out in Las Vegas, the third and final debate between Hillary Rodham Clinton and Donald J. Trump, and we're going to have a few thoughts on that here in a minute, and then we're going to get into what I believe was the most telling part of the debate last night, the comment on abortion, and we're going to get into that in just a second. But I want to just make a few opening remarks about the debate last night. I'm a Trump supporter. I don't hide that at all, but I looked at this really hard today, and I really looked objectively at what went down. And I really, truly believe, and I'll just use this analogy, you know, in baseball, most baseball teams play 3-game series over a course of a 162-game season. And when you go into a city or you're playing at home against another team, the goal is to win series. I never will forget Bobby Cox saying something years ago, the former Braves manager, the Hall of Fame manager, who I just absolutely admire and thankful that being a Braves fan all these years, he was our skipper for all those great years during the 1990s into the early 2000s with the division titles. And yes, we only won one World Series, but we had some good baseball during that year. But anyway, Bobby said something one time years ago, and what he said basically was, he said that if you win 2 out of 3 baseball games for the whole year, you win by 20 games in your division. And he's right. And he said if you take 2 out of 3 every time, you're going to win. And I looked at this debate last night sort of as the deciding factor or the deciding debate of the 3. You know, I tried to give Trump a little credit for the first one, but in reality, he did not do well in that first debate, as good as he could have. He had never been on the debate stage before with her and this audience, and he continued to improve. So let's just say Clinton won the first one. The second debate was very different, and that clip I just played you at the beginning came from that second debate where he really took her on in her dishonesty. And 60-40, 75-25, 65-35, that was an average of the polls that said he won that second debate. At least the online polls, not the dishonest ones from the media. Last night, I really believe that he set the tone, and I felt like he won the debate in the first 15 minutes, in my opinion, even though the pundits today don't feel this. But, you know, pundits that don't understand the issue of life and they don't understand what's at stake when candidates either defend life or they defend death, they don't get it. And to me, Donald Trump hit a grand slam home run in the first inning of this debate last night. We're going to play you the clip in just a second, and we're going to talk about the abortion issue. But Donald Trump defended life last night in this debate, and Hillary Clinton did not. She defended Planned Parenthood, and we're going to show you the contrast of the two in just a minute. I want to say that Donald Trump was extremely tough, but yet he kept his composure. He kept his tone. I don't care how much crap she threw at him. She tried to throw up everything from the controversy to the women controversy. Didn't really mention the video, but she mentioned, you know, his treatment of women, his treatment of his workers, his, you know, he outsourced all this work 25, 35, 50 years ago as a private businessman. And, you know, it's just hilariously funny that she was complaining last night about Donald Trump's past as a businessman and mocked him many times about being on Celebrity Apprentice. And then probably in 2 of the most hilariously funny moments on her end, to even say it with a straight face, one of the comments that she made last night was when she basically was getting pushed into a corner by Chris Wallace, and he asked Hillary Clinton, he said he was talking to her about the pay-for-play scheme of the Clinton Foundation, and she made this comical remark. She said that everything that she's ever done as Secretary of State has been done for the country. And that, again, was one of the roll on the floor laughing moments of you've got to be kidding moments. And the thing is that, you know, nothing that Clinton has ever done has been for the country. It's all been for herself. And when you start taking money from nations such as Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Yemen, these Islamic-friendly countries that persecute gays, persecute women, kill and behead and stone people because they don't believe in Islam and don't live under Sharia law and don't live according to Sharia law, you've got a real problem. I mean, Donald Trump was very smart last night in confronting her with that and basically telling her, put your money where your mouth is, Hillary. If you're against those kind of things and you're so for human rights and you're so for the protection of women and you're so pro-women, give that money back. And you know, didn't hear a word out of Hillary Clinton's mouth that she'd do that. And folks, if you're holding your breath for her to do that, you're going to die because she's not going to do that. It's all been for herself to enrich her and Bill. Folks, they came out of the White House, according to her own words, here last year broke. And then all of a sudden they're multimillionaires over the last decade because, you know, they have given all these speeches and they've taken all this money into the Clinton Foundation illegally. And, you know, where she's claiming that 90% of that money goes to actually funding good causes, the truth of the matter, it's like 5.7% actually makes its way to causes. The Haiti situation, all this money, all this thing that Bill tried to, you know, promote that he was all for Haiti, trying to help the Haitian island during the earthquake a few years back. You know, and it's turned out that they have not given that country a dime hardly of this money that they were out here raising for Haiti. And folks, these things are going to come home to roost to them in a brutal way on November the 8th. I believe that. I believe the country sees through this. And, you know, the pundits can spew and they can turn over and twitch and foam at the mouth and it's the end of Donald Trump and Donald Trump said this and Donald Trump said that and this is the end of his campaign. Folks, we've been hearing that since July of 2015. Every time we turned around last year during the Republican primaries, we heard that Trump just can't survive this. He can't survive that. He can't survive this statement. He can't survive that statement. And guess what? He survived all of it and kicked the crap out of 17 establishment Republicans, with the exception of a few. I'd call Rand Paul and Ted Cruz sort of anti-establishment, but he even beat them. And he emerged as the winner, as the Republican nominee for the presidency of the United States, even though the Republican Party at large didn't want that nomination, and he is fighting them as hard as he's fighting the Democrats. And this debate last night showed a dichotomy, folks, of two visions for the country. It showed us two separate directions of where we're headed if one is elected over the other. If Hillary Clinton's elected, we're going to stay on the same course that we're going through right now with Barack Obama and these 8 years of nothing but wickedness and evil and corruption in high places, racial division, this divisiveness, this ugliness of politics that I don't think I've ever seen in my lifetime. And we knew it was coming if he got elected, and we warned people about it, but most people ignored it because they wanted a black man to run the country. And, you know, we found out that it's not about the color of one's skin that matters. It's the matter of one's heart that matters. And if your heart is dark, it don't matter what the color of your skin is, you're an evil person. And now the clamor is, well, we've got to elect a woman president. We've got a woman running for the office of president. And we need a woman in office. And Hillary Clinton is that standard bearer. And we're going to play you some videos here in a minute, folks, that shows you that she does not care about women. And when you start doing the things and believing and backing the comments of Margaret Sanger, who is the founder of Planned Parenthood, and you start praising a racist who was basically a female wing of the KKK, hated blacks, sought the extermination of blacks through abortion clinics, through the killing of their babies, and just some horrific, barbaric things that she promoted. And you have a presidential candidate praising her. I should tell you everything you need to know about her view of women and her view of blacks. But yet those two are her biggest voting constituencies that vote for her because she's a Democrat. And, you know, Donald Trump last night, he preached four main messages. He preached lower taxes. He's going to lower the taxes. He's going to take all this regulation off business. He's going to make it easier for jobs to come back to America. He's going to renegotiate these trade deals that are sucking the life out of our country. He says that with foreign policy, he's going to get a coalition of men together. He's going to find the best way to fight ISIS. He's going to do his best to keep us out of these hot spots with troops, but he will do what he has to do to fight ISIS and destroy them, not contain them. She kept trying to bring up Russia last night and our cozy relationship. We're trying to tie Trump into the coziness with Russia. Folks, it ain't the Trump that Vladimir Putin basically said was in his inner sanctum. He said that was Hillary. And Hillary, in those leaked WikiLeaks emails, basically was bragging that she was the one that was in Putin's inner sanctum, not Donald Trump. And it was just a full-fledged display, folks, last night of just two visions, one dark, one bright for the future. And again, every time Hillary got cornered about her comments about open borders and open hemispheric borders, in other words, no borders in any country, no boundaries in any country, basically a one world government. And folks, that has biblical overtones, that has spiritual overtones of what may be coming. And if she's elected, we may be on a fast track to that, because that's what her vision is for the country. And see, she can only do that with two things, a crooked Congress and a crooked Supreme Court. And that's where this debate about abortion came into play last night in this discussion, because the question from the moderator, Chris Wallace, and I will talk about him in a minute, but the Supreme Court basically is going to be really at the heart of this next cycle of 4 years, whoever gets elected. Because it is a given, there's going to be one nomination at least, but there very will be two, maybe three justices that they will have to replace. Ruth Bader Ginsburg has indicated she's going to retire if Hillary gets elected. John Stevens, my apologies, Kennedy has indicated, Stevens died, Kennedy has indicated that he may be leaving the court as well at some point next year. And folks, we have got a serious crisis facing us in this country. You've got a candidate that feels like she's above the law, wanting to control the laws of the country. That's lawlessness, and that is the most dangerous thing that we could ever have in the Republic of the United States of America, to have a lawless candidate who has no concern for law to be in control of the law. That is a recipe, folks, for tyranny and dictatorship. But yet the left wants to paint Donald Trump as the threat to democracy. And the reason I say that is, at the end of the debate last night, Chris Wallace asked Donald Trump point blank, he said, will you support the result of the election? And I talked about this a little bit this morning in our live cast on Facebook, and I'll deal with it now. That question actually is very similar to the question that Bret Baier asked Donald Trump back in July of 2015 when the first Republican debate went on, and they were trying to corner Trump into pledging his allegiance to the Republican Party no matter who the nominee was. And everybody on that Republican stage raised their hand except Trump the first time. And they said they will support whoever the people pick. And the second time that question came up, Trump begrudgingly went ahead and raised his hand. He said, I will support whoever the people pick. And it was all a trap, folks, back in July 2015. It was a trap last night to get him to do exactly what he did, because Donald Trump's Donald Trump. But the thing that backfired on the Republican Party was they never dreamed that Donald Trump would win the nomination. And they were afraid if he did lose, that he was going to go out and start a third party movement, which probably would have split the vote between the Republican nominee and him, which probably would have ushered in Hillary. But the funny thing about it was the people would have none of it. The people spoke. They put Donald Trump as the nominee. He beat down 17 other Republicans. And then the damnable irony of this, which is completely pathetic, and I still feel like it's going to come back to haunt every one of those men up there that's not doing it. And there's been some big names that have refused to support Trump who pledged their word that they would do it. John Kasich, Jeb Bush have just followed him tooth and toenail and has not supported him. Rand Paul has not supported him. There's a lot of these people that promised that they would support him, and they haven't. Carly Fiorina is another one. And she has done nothing but betray Donald Trump in all of her speeches and all her comments. And, again, it's just hideous politics on display, folks. But last night, Chris Wallace asked him the same question, basically. Will you support the process? Will you support the results of the election? And, folks, as we talked about last night on our podcast, and I'm not sure we'll get back to it tonight, but we will get back to it in the next few weeks about the voter fraud and the intimidation. We've got the 2 videos up on our Facebook page if you're friends with us on Facebook. And we'll have that on the Mac Files page this week too. But the thing is that there were 2 videos released by James O'Keefe, who the left media and the mainstream media hate with a passion, because James O'Keefe does things that they can't do, and that's get to the truth and tell the truth about things. And these undercover videos were showing that Hillary's campaign was behind an effort to incite violence with the Donald Trump campaign, and voter fraud, bragging about busting people in from state to state. In states that do not require voter ID, that they would bust people in and have them vote in different state elections and have them do 3-4 times sometimes in some places. And see, that's the danger of having an election process where there's no requirement for voter ID. You've got to have voter ID, folks. We've got to have some sort of semblance of justice and law at our voting polls. You got to have a license to get a fishing. You got to have an ID to get a fishing license. You got to have an ID to vote. Not to vote, but you got to have an ID to get a driver's license. You have to have an ID to get on Social Security. You have to have an ID to do a number of things in this country, except for one thing, and that is vote. And that is just common sense 101, which is a little bit of a stretch for this country when it comes to voting. And all Trump was basically saying last night, folks, and yes, he said it in a way I wish maybe he could have worded it a little bit better. I don't know. But he just said, I'll let you know at the time when the time comes. And I think I'm going to keep you in surprise. And, the media went crazy, ate crap crazy over it last night and this morning, both on the left and the right. I mean, people even like Dick Morris, was saying, well, Trump lost the election. Doug Schoen, the Democratic pollster, wrote a piece in Fox today. He said, we witnessed the end of the 2016 campaign last night. Folks, the campaign is not over. Today's not November the 8th. Today is October the 19th and 20th, I should say. 18 days we've got till this election. And we've not voted yet. But I'm going to tell you this. Donald Trump, while the mainstream media is going crazy about that, most people out here that I've spoke to today in the real world, they're all for him standing up against voter fraud. And that's one of the things that pissed us off so bad in 2012 and really 2008 too, because our Republican candidates and John McCain and Mitt Romney did zilch to fight against the wickedness and the corruption of the Barack Obama machine. Trump is not going to lay down and not fight back against the wickedness of this machine. And folks, I salute him for that. I have no problem with that. So I believe that overall last night, it was a win for Donald Trump. He stayed on message. He stayed on course. He didn't veer off into these rabbit trails that Hillary tried to take him on, and she tried to take him on a bunch because, folks, it was a nonstop onslaught. She never could talk about the issues hardly. There was very little talking about what she's going to take to do and with the country. And, folks, to be honest with you, Tom Brokaw, who is probably as liberal as you can get when it comes to journalism, said it right 3 weeks ago. When he said right after the second debate, he said Hillary Clinton has never looked into that camera and told the American people why she wants to be president. She's just running with the idea that we all know why she wants to be president. And the thing is that where Donald Trump may be overexposed, Hillary Clinton won't even get out and campaign. I mean, she made this smart remark after the debate last night. She said, well, I guess I don't have no more days to take no more naps. Like she's been napping all this time. And, that's the arrogance of the Clinton machine. They think they've got this thing wrapped up. They think they do. But see, they underestimate one thing, and that's you that I'm looking at in this camera today. They're underestimating me and you. They underestimate the feeling and the sentiment of this nation when it comes to Washington, D.C. And you can say what you want to about the crowds. I've heard Dana Perino and these other twits on Fox try to downplay the fact of the enthusiasm gap, that Trump's drawing 25,000, 30,000 people. Romney had that same crowd. No, he did not. Romney never had these kind of crowds, folks. Romney, and I travel a lot with my job and my work, and I see city after city, and I'll be honest with you, I drive through these cities, and I see I don't think I can count 5 Hillary signs I've seen in the last 3 weeks, and I've seen hundreds of Trump-Pence signs, except for the ones that have been stolen by the shit asses on the Hillary side who think it's their job to go steal Trump signs out of people's yards, thinking they're real big and they're real funny and real clever. But anyway, neither here nor there. Donald Trump won this debate last night. Now, how that plays out in votes, as I said last night, we really don't know yet, folks. We will in about 2 weeks. We will in 18 days. And I just think that there's a lot more to drop with WikiLeaks. I think there's a lot more to come. There could be a huge bomb that could go off in the Clinton campaign, things that are revealed. And it's going to be an interesting 2 weeks. And again, I wished I had a lot of time today to get to all this. I'm going to try to get to what I can. But that's my take on the debate last night. I will say one quick thing about Chris Wallace. The first 2 debates were so heavily handed against Trump with the moderator. Heavy-handed. I want to congratulate Chris Wallace because he was so fair last night. Very fair. He was tough on both candidates. He was asking the questions, and they were not tawdry questions. It was not just this gotcha moment question. It was a question for the issues and about the issues, and he gave each candidate a fair shake to answer the question. The only thing I saw that he did a couple of times, he sort of cut Trump off a little bit more than he did Hillary, but Trump got his words in except in the exchange on the emails. I do regret Benghazi didn't come up last night, but again, there were time constraints on both of them. But I just feel like you really can't complain about Chris Wallace in this one. This was on Trump and Clinton. And, I think Chris did his job. I know a lot of people that's listening to this don't like him. I'm not saying that, he's perfect, but I will have to say, as trying to be objectively positive as I can be, is that he did a very decent job in moderating this debate, and at least on a fair shake, he did well when it come to the issue of fairness. Now, what questions he asked and all that's up for debate. I don't think that he could have asked any more than he did. As I said, there were a few things that I wished he would have asked, but he didn't. But, that's just debate, folks, and that's just food for thought. All right, let's move on. I want to talk about something tonight. I do want to just mention this, and again, I'm going to we will deal with the debate each week, all this week, and deal with different things. There I am. I want to play a clip here right now that I believe was the defining moment of the debate, and this is my opinion, and I will deal with this in just a second. And I just believe that this right here set the tone for the debate, and I'm going to play the clip. It's looks like it's about a 5-minute clip. This is an exchange at the beginning with Chris Wallace and both candidates about the issue of abortion, and I want you to listen to this.
Well, let's pick up on another issue which divides you and the justices that whoever ends up winning this election appoints could have a dramatic effect there, and that's the issue of abortion. Right. Mr. Trump, you're pro-life, but I want to ask you specifically, do you want the court, including the justices that you will name, to overturn Roe v. Wade, which includes, in fact states, a woman's right to abortion?
Well, if that would happen, because I am pro-life and I will be appointing pro-life judges, I would think that will go back to the individual states.
That little smirk on her face is just amazing to me.
If they overturned it, it'll go back to the states.
But what I'm asking you, sir, is do you want to see the court overturn? You just said you want to see the court protect the Second Amendment. Do you want to see the court overturn Roe v. Wade?
Well, if we put another 2 or perhaps 3 justices on, that's really what's going to be will happen. And that'll happen automatically, in my opinion, because I am putting pro-life justices on the court. I will say this, it will go back to the states, and the states will then make a determination.
Secretary Clinton.
Well, I strongly support Roe v. Wade, which guarantees a constitutional right to a woman to make the most intimate, most difficult in many cases, decisions about her health care that one can imagine. And in this case, it's not only about Roe v. Wade. It is about what's happening right now in America. So many states are putting very stringent regulations on women that block them from exercising that choice to the extent that they are defunding Planned Parenthood, which of course provides all kinds of cancer screenings and other benefits for
That's a lie,
women
folks.
in our country.
That's a lie.
Donald has said he's in favor of defunding Planned Parenthood. He even supported shutting the government down to defund Planned Parenthood. I will defend Planned Parenthood. I will defend Roe v. Wade, and I will defend women's rights to make their own health care decisions.
Secretary
And we have come too far to have that turn back now. And indeed, he said women should be punished, that there should be some form of punishment for women who obtain abortions. And I could just not be more opposed to that kind of thinking.
I'm going to give you a chance to respond, but I want to ask you, Secretary Clinton, I want to explore how far you believe the right to abortion goes. You have been quoted as saying that the fetus has no constitutional rights. You also voted against a ban on late-term partial birth.
Listen to this, folks. Listen.
Why?
Because Roe v. Wade very clearly sets out that there can be regulations on abortion so long as the life and the health of the mother are taken into account. And when I voted as a senator, I did not think that that was the case. The kinds of cases that fall at the end of pregnancy are often the most heartbreaking, painful decisions for families to make. I have met with women who, toward the end of their pregnancy, get the worst news one could get, that their health is in jeopardy if they continue to carry to term, or that something terrible has happened or just been discovered about the pregnancy. I do not think the United States government should be stepping in and making those most personal of decisions.
Wow.
So you can regulate, if you are doing so, with the life and the health of the mother taken into account.
Mr. Trump, your reaction?
Listen to this. Cold, that's cold, folks.
Partial birth
Well, I
abortion.
think it's terrible. If you go with what Hillary is saying, in the 9th month, you can take the baby and rip the baby.
And that's what happens, folks.
Of the mother, just prior to the birth of the baby. Now, you can say that that's okay, and Hillary can say that that's okay, but it's not okay with me. Because based on what she's saying and based on where she's going and where she's been, you can take the baby and rip the baby out of the womb in the 9th month, on the final day. And that's not acceptable.
Well, that is not what happens in these cases.
And that is a lie. It is what happens in this case, Hillary. It is.
Just terribly unfortunate.
Not scare
You
rhetoric.
should meet with some of the women that I've met with, women I've known over the course of my life. This is one of the worst possible choices that any woman and her family has to make. And I do not believe the government should be making it. You know, I've had the great honor of traveling across the world on behalf of our country. I've been to countries where governments
She's getting a little defensive. Listen to this.
Like they used to do in China.
They're still doing it in China, folks. They're still doing it in China.
Like they used to do in Romania. And I can tell you the government has no business in the decisions that women make with their families in accordance with their faith, with medical advice, and I will stand up for that right.
All right. But just briefly, I want to move on
And
to another
honestly,
segment.
nobody has business doing what I just said, doing that as late as 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 days prior to birth. Nobody has that.
All right.
And folks, that is Donald J. Trump. I could not have been more prouder of Donald J. Trump last night than I was him standing up for the rights of the unborn. I'm going to look at you in this camera today and I want to ask you a very serious question. How much do you value life? How much do you value the rights of the fetus, the baby, the unprotected baby in a woman's womb? Let me tell you something, what Hillary Clinton said there, folks. And she was so wrong on so many levels, and she absolutely just lied, completely lied about the fact that it's scare tactics. It's not scare tactics. I want to show you a figure right here. I want you to see if I can bring this up. I'm going to bring Margaret Sanger down because I'm going to get to her in just a second. This is the number of abortions, folks. This is the number of abortions. Let me get her out of the way. Since 1973 and Roe v. Wade was passed in this country, which has been one of the most damnable laws that this country has ever passed, and taken its fist and slapped it in the face of God to basically open the gates of bloodletting in this country. 58,586,256 abortions have been performed, and that is just as of last year. There's probably been more as of today. That was taken at the end of 2015. 58,586,256 abortions. Now, let me give you Hillary's statement. She said, well, the government should not be involved in the women's choice for their health. Well, guess what? This law got government involved in the killing of babies and women's health. This is a law, folks, that was passed by our Supreme Court. The last time I checked, Supreme Court's part of the government. So the government did get involved in a woman's right to kill a baby. And folks, the statistics are not being accurately reported in the sense that, you know, the left makes this idea up that, or this theme that all of these cases, most of these abortions are by women, that, you know, they don't want to, the mother's at risk, or the life of the mother's at risk, or the baby's at risk. Folks, that percentage is less than 0.0001% of all the abortions performed in the history of abortion since 1973. It's less than a tenth or 100%. Very, very few. It's the exception. And folks, the truth of the matter is, when it gets down to it, it's covetousness. It's because women don't want to be saddled with a baby and the responsibility of having it once the baby comes. And most of the time, they want the right to terminate that baby in their womb without any defense for that baby. Hillary Clinton said just last year, she don't feel, you heard what Chris Wallace said to her, she said in 2009 that the fetus, this fetus that you're looking at, has no constitutional rights. Let me tell you something, folks. I don't care if Hillary Clinton or the president himself or whoever else says that this baby doesn't have any constitutional rights. I tell you whose rights it's got. It's got God rights. It's got God rights. God created this baby, not man. And when God is the author of life and man sticks his finger into God's business and kills life, we've got a problem with the Creator. And this country has got the blood of 58,586,256 babies on its hands since 1973. And yet you have a candidate up there last night that would not defend life, and you had another one that would. And to me, it was the defining moment of the debate. And in my mind, when I heard Donald Trump say that, it mattered not to me what he said the rest of the night. He won the debate in my mind and in my heart, because he stood up for the undefendable. He stood up for the unprotected. He stood up for the unborn. He stood up for those that have no right or no voice because their mother chooses they don't want to have them anymore. And folks, I told a dear friend this morning, how many of these babies, think about this, it's not just the babies, but it's the generations that exist in the babies. It's their children and their grandchildren that were snuffed out in these clinics and snuffed out and so forth. And folks, this figure includes a lot of late-term abortions, 8 and 9 month pregnancies, and that's what Donald Trump was telling and saying to her last night about the partial birth issue. And I'm going to take this off, and I want to bring something up, because Planned Parenthood was mentioned. And Planned Parenthood is basically the organization that is at the heart of most of this bloodletting in our country. And this lady here that you see, her name is Margaret Sanger. And she is the founder of Planned Parenthood. And I want you to look at these quotes, folks. These are taken from her comments. These are her own words. This is what you call the vision of Planned Parenthood, of whom Hillary Clinton supports and supports without blinking. Look at these comments now. The most racist and most barbaric and most lethal, deadly, wicked organization in America, probably to me, other than Black Lives Matter. We don't want the word to go out that we want to exterminate the Negro population. Donald Trump didn't say that, and some racist Republican, Margaret Sanger, said that. I accepted an invitation to talk to the women's branch of the Ku Klux Klan. That's Margaret Sanger. They are human weeds, reckless breeders, spawning human beings who never should have been born. Speaking of black babies, folks, black babies. That wasn't said by Donald J. Trump. That was said by Margaret Sanger, Hillary Clinton's mentor and idol. Birth control is nothing more or less than weeding out the unfit. And let me tell you her definition of birth control, folks. It's not the pill, it was abortion. That's how she felt like that the world and the nation should weed out the unfit. Human beings who never should have been born at all. Talking about babies and the selective process by which a woman can choose to kill or allow a baby to live. This is another one. I think the greatest sin in the world is bringing children into the world. Again, that's a comment by Margaret Sanger back in the 1930s. But from my view, I believe that there should be no more babies. And that comes from Margaret Sanger. Now, I want to play you something here. You may remember this, but I feel like it's worthy of us playing right now. This is Hillary Clinton speaking back, I guess it's been 5 or 6 years ago maybe. But she spoke to a group of people, and this is what she had to say. Let's see, that's not the one. Let me see if I can find it here. Here it is right here. This is Hillary Clinton. This is Mrs. Hillary Clinton speaking about 8 years ago, or not 8 years ago, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, to a group. And this is what she had to say about Mrs. Margaret Sanger. Listen to this.
Well, thank you so much. It's great to be back in Houston with so many friends and to have an opportunity to participate in the Planned Parenthood annual meeting.
That was Margaret Sanger and the KKK.
It was a great privilege when I was told that I would
A great privilege.
receive this award. I admire Margaret Sanger enormously. Her courage, her tenacity, her vision. Another of my great friends, Ellen Chesler, is here, who wrote a magnificent biography of Margaret Sanger called Woman of Valor. And when I think about what she did all those years ago in Brooklyn, taking on archetypes, taking on attitudes and accusations flowing from all directions, I am really in awe.
I want to stop it right there. I don't know if you noticed the date on that when she made that comment about Oriental Jews, blacks, and Orientals, Jews, and blacks, about them being weeds. It was October the 16th of 1916. Folks, that's 100 years. They just celebrated their 100th anniversary 3 days ago for Planned Parenthood. Their 100-year anniversary. And this lady that you see talking on your left, she's receiving the Margaret Sanger Award. And let's listen in on more what she had to say about this great, great icon, as she put it, for human rights.
Brooklyn, taking on archetypes, taking on attitudes and accusations flowing from all directions. I am really in awe of her. And there are a lot of lessons that we can learn from her life. And
wow.
Because she launched.
That's rich, Hillary. That's rich.
And sacrificed so greatly.
Listen to this, folks. Listen to this.
Do you believe in sin? When I say believe, I don't mean to believe in committing sin. Do you believe there is such a thing as sin?
Well, I think the greatest sin in the world is bringing children into the world that have disease from their parents, that have no chance in the world to be a human being, practically. Delinquents, prisoners, all sorts of things just marked when they're born. That, to me, is the greatest sin that people can commit.
That is the most barbaric, wicked thing you could ever hear come out of a woman's mouth. I want to play you something. Again, some of you may have received this or remember this from last year. The gentleman that did it got in a lot of trouble over the videos, but folks, what he exposed was something that needed to be exposed, and it cost him a great deal to do it, and I'm grateful that he did. But this is an undercover video taken last year from people talking to Planned Parenthood employees about the sale of baby parts. Now, let me just stop here. When we say partial birth abortion, we're talking about something that, while it is abortion, it's on a different level than regular abortion. And the reason for it is that partial birth abortion is actually late-term abortion. And I want to read you just a couple of things about it that people don't understand. because they think that all abortion is maybe that takes place in the first few months of pregnancy. That is true in most cases, but in a lot of cases, and in a growing number of cases, partial birth abortion, which is illegal now in the United States. George Bush signed the partial birth abortion ban in 2003, and he pledged to do it as president, and he upheld that. But in 2007, there was a challenge to it, and the Supreme Court upheld it, but there is a push on right now for it to be overturned again. And again, this is what's at stake with the Supreme Court. If Hillary Clinton gets in, this ban very well may be overturned in the next Supreme Court session, because she would put justices on this bench that would probably overturn it. Partial birth abortion is basically a late-term abortion of a fetus, now get this, that has already died or is killed before being completely removed from the mother, but it's in the 8th and 9th term, and I want to just read you what goes on with this. Partial birth abortion is a procedure in which the abortionist pulls a living baby feet first out of the womb into the birth canal, except for the head, which the abortion purposely keeps lodged just between the cervix, the opening of the womb. He then punctures the base of the baby's skull with a surgical instrument such as a long surgical scissors or a pointed hollow metal tube called a trocher. He then inserts a catheter into the womb, removes the baby's brains with a powerful suction machine. This causes the skull to collapse, after which the abortion completes the delivery of the now dead baby. Folks, there's nothing more barbaric. And when Donald Trump said last night, he said there is nothing in no scenario whatsoever that Hillary thinks this is okay, that in his world it's okay. But yet in Hillary's world, in Planned Parenthood's world, it's okay. Because this video that I'm about to show you about baby parts comes from partial birth abortions being performed illegally and behind the scenes at these clinics that is still going on despite the ban. And this is what was uncovered last year about the baby parts. And I want you to listen to this. This is just one of many videos that's out there, but we're going to play this one. And I got another one I want to play, but I want you to listen to this very carefully, folks, because this is going on in the civilized United States of America, and it is a barbaric travesty that it is. And I want you to listen to it.
Now a story we guarantee most of you have never heard before. Big money is being made from the sale of fetal body parts.
Even the most ardent
Hillary Clinton is for this, folks. Hillary Clinton is for this. She supports this group. She praised this group. She praised its founder.
Inappropriate, totally inappropriate.
More than inappropriate, lady, it's barbaric. It's demonic and it's sinful.
Be brought to justice.
It is murder. Now listen to this. Watch the undercover video from last year.
A lot of people want to attack parts these days. They're looking for specific notes.
Look at her eating a salad there, folks.
I didn't even know.
No conscience. No conscience whatsoever.
Yesterday was the first time she said people wanted longer. And then, like I said, always as many attack livers as possible. People just want
liver is...
People want lower extremities too, which that's simple. I mean, that's easy.
How have we degenerated to this, folks, in the good old United States of America? How have we come to this point? It's a felony. It is a felony. 10 years and a fine of $500,000. This is an actual order form from Planned Parenthood. God help us. God help us.
I'm the medical director for the national office for all of the affiliates. So I say, okay, what are you looking to supply today? We've been very good at getting parts on liver. Every provider has had patients who want to donate their tissue, and they absolutely want to accomplish that. They just want to do it in a way that is not pursued.
If Hillary Clinton is elected, she will put Supreme Court justices on the bench that will make this legal. Just like They put him on the bench in 73 to make abortion legal. You mark my word. This is the kind of justices that she wants, that embrace this barbaric practice and this barbaric, demonic practice of baby parts being sold on the open market. What kind of human being supports this, folks? What kind of person, what kind of heart, what kind of sick individual supports this?
The $30 to $100 price, that's per specimen that we're talking about, right? Yeah.
Yes.
The $30 to $100.
She's just eating a salad like it's no big deal.
Right. Yeah.
Yes.
How much of a difference can that actually make if you know what's expected or what we need versus?
It makes a huge difference. I'd say a lot of people want liver, and for that reason, most providers
Listen to this.
have guidance, so they'll know where they're putting their forceps.
In other words, we're going to have an ultrasound so they'll know where to put the forceps. The head.
The head is basically the biggest part. Most of the other stuff can come out intact. It's very rare.
The other stuff is baby organs.
To evacuate all the other.
To bring the body cavity out, contact and all that.
So then you're just kind of cognizant of where you put your graspers. You try to intentionally go above and below the thorax so that, we've been very good at getting heart, lung, liver, because we know that, so I'm not going to crush that part. I'm going to basically crush below, I'm going to crush above, and I'm going to see that get out intact. And with the calvarium, in general, some people will actually try to change the presentation so that it's not vertex. Because when it's a vertex presentation, you never have enough dilation to manage the case unless you have a real huge amount of dilation to deliver an intact calvarium. So if you do it starting from the breech presentation, there's dilation that happens as the case goes on, and often at the
Folks, this is just sick. This girl has no conscience whatsoever. All right, that was the first video from 2014. Here's the second video when all hell started breaking loose, and this is the second one that came out about Planned Parenthood. And this one is even more hideous than this one, because this lady, I'll let you listen to it and let you listen in her own words what she had to say about the buying of baby parts.
Hello, I'm Cecile Richards,
A wicked individual woman, folks.
I want to be really clear.
I'm sure you do. I'm sure you do.
Inherited profits in any way from tissue donation is not true.
Wow. Really?
What would you expect for intact tissue? What sort of compensation? What sort of...
Look at...
Why don't you start by telling me what you used to pay?
See how glib she is? That is considered, folks, that is just that's barbarism. That is debauchery. That is barbaric. And you had a candidate last night that stood up for this, folks. She stood up for this. She embraced this, and she's praised the founder of this.
We'll be exhibiting at the medical director's council meeting in a couple of weeks, so I don't know if you'll be attending.
I'm now the president of that organization.
Oh.
I'm so glad it's funny to you, ma'am. It's a big joke, isn't it? Real big joke. She's a leadership and advisory at the national level of Planned Parenthood in Los Angeles.
So we had just started the conversation. Susan was Clinic, they're a startup that they have been about a year in business. They're a for-profit company that's connecting researchers with people willing to donate tissue. Our volume, thank you for giving it to me, is 800 a year with 60 in the second trimester. And we just started talking about how the process worked with Novogenics down in Los Angeles when I was there. Okay, back up a little bit. PPFA, our parent body, is on board with tissue donation, but we have to ask for a waiver to do it, and we have to lay out for them what our program's going to be like. And the mechanics of it was that Heather, Novogenics person, would come to the site, and our staff would sign the patients up and get consent, and then Heather would...
Okay, she's talking about them getting consent. And this video then comes out a little bit later where she's basically mocking and talking about pricing. Watch this.
Hello, I'm Cecile Richards, president of Planned Parenthood Federation of America. I want to be really clear. object to asking Ian, who's our attorney who does the cases, to use an iPass at that gestation late in order to...
She's given the details of how they do this, folks.
But I do need to throw it out there as a concern, because the patient is signing something and we're signing something saying we're not changing anything in the way we're managing you just because you agreed to give tissue. I've heard of that before.
Yeah, no, it's definitely...
It's touchy. Okay. Now a story we. How do you feel about that?
Now I want you to listen to this. Listen to this.
Totally appropriate techniques. There's no pain involved. I don't think the patients would care one iota.
Wow. Did you just hear what she said, folks? I'm not making a fuss about that because I don't think the patients will care one iota. Hillary Clinton supporting this, folks. She said it last night on that debate stage. And if you as a human being out there in this country can look at this and embrace this, you've got a dark heart. You got a dark heart. You've got a dark heart.
Okay.
Now you have my email address, right? Write me a 3 or 4 paragraph proposal, which I will then take to Laurel and others in our organization to see if we want to pursue this. And then if we want to pursue this mutually, I'll mention this to Ian in terms of how he feels about using
a less crunchy technique.
specimens. And then if we agree to move forward, the next steps I'll need to apply to PPFA for a waiver permit us to do this.
They're just sitting there eating, folks, like it's no big deal. This is no big deal. It's just like a conversation like you're having over lunch.
We've used in the past as a materials transfer agreement, and that's obviously open to discussion.
So that's a prototype. It needs to say exactly what your staff is going to do, exactly what your expectations are, exactly what your compensation is.
And are we agreed that $100 would
Now listen to this.
keep you happy?
Well, let me agree to find out from other affiliates in California what they're getting. And
God almighty.
more, then we can discuss it again.
$100, folks.
Yeah, no, the money is not the important thing.
No,
But it has
no.
to be big enough that it's
But it is something to talk about. I mean, it's one of the first things that you brought up, right? So, no.
big enough that it's
But it is something to talk about. I mean, it's one of the first things that you brought up, right? So,
Now, here's another thought: is we've been talking about specimen as per specimen per case or per procured tissue sample, which would be so that we're able to get a liver thymus pair. Maybe that is $75 per specimen, and so that's for liver thymus pair, and that's $150. Versus if we can get liver thymus, brain hemisphere, and all that, then so that protects us. So
I'm letting you listen to this, folks, because this is the organization that Hillary Clinton got on national television last night and defended in the final presidential debate and said, I support them and I will do everything to protect them from being defunded. Your tax money is going to this. My tax money is going to this. I want a Lamborghini. Did you see that? I want a Lamborghini. To them it's a joke. Trade baby parts for a car. That is illegal. Folks, it is more than illegal. It is demonic. And Hillary Clinton should be ashamed of herself for even supporting this at all. That she stood up there last night in a bold-faced move and embraced this very thing. How tragic. How tragic. I'm speechless, to be honest with you. The founder of this movement, she says they're human weeds, reckless breeders, human beings who should never be born. And then I want to play you one more time the words of Hillary Clinton.
Well, thank you so much. It's great to be back in Houston with so many friends and to have an opportunity to participate in the Planned Parenthood annual meeting.
Wow.
I have to tell you that it was a great privilege when I was told that I would receive this award. admire Margaret Sanger enormously. Her courage, her tenacity, her vision.
I admire Margaret Sanger enormously. Her courage, her tenacity, and her vision. Folks, in these 7 comments over here in the red, this is her vision. And this was her vision for America. And her vision for those that would embrace Planned Parenthood. And my question to you tonight, as we're getting ready to bring this to a close, I always run out of time before I get to wanting to talk about things to do. Is that your vision for America? It's Hillary Clinton's. It's Hillary Clinton's. And that's why this discussion last night about the Supreme Court was so important, and why when she told that camera, and she told Chris Wallace that she would basically do everything she could to protect the Planned Parenthood and the blood led into this country, it became a low point of her life.
Let's pick up on another issue, which...
And I want to play this comment again right here at the end.
Either forced women to have abortions like they used to do in China, or forced women to bear children
She's reading her
like
notes.
they used to do in Romania. And I can tell you the government has no business in the decisions that women make with their families in accordance.
The government has no decision to make in the decision of their families. But guess what, folks? The government is funding this very thing with your taxpayer money, thanks to Barack Obama and a wicked Congress and a wicked government. But I want to play Donald Trump's comments one more time.
Their faith with medical advice, and I will stand up for that right.
She'll stand up for what you just watched.
Honestly, nobody has business doing what I just said, doing that as late as 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 days prior to birth. Nobody has that.
All right.
Nobody has that right. Donald Trump is right on. And folks, again, I wish I had more time, but I don't. And that's going to wrap it up for a Thursday night edition of the Mac Files number 31. Very troubled to watch that, but this is what's at stake in this country, folks, and in this nation. Tomorrow we're going to deal with a lot more issues. If we can, we're going to be on the road a little bit. We may have an abbreviated one in the morning. But I just want you to know that this is what is at stake in this election. And you need to be aware of it, and you need to stay in touch with it. I'm sorry for the pause here. I don't know. I'm speechless of what I just watched. I'd seen it before, but watching it again today just makes me shake my head. It really does. Folks, that'll do it for a Thursday night. We thank you for joining us on the Mac Files. We hope you have a great evening. Sorry for the lengthiness of this, but the information I feel like needed to get out there. And we will see you tomorrow. Same bat time, same bat channel. God bless, Godspeed, God bless America. Please say a prayer for our country. Please say a prayer for this election. And folks, be alert and be aware of the forces of darkness that are trying to take over our government. They're real. God bless, folks. Have a great night. Good night.
The government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish.
Of the people, by the people, for the people.
And that government of the people, by the people, and for the people, shall not perish